Before beginning installation of your water system, take care and proper removal of your present truck's dump bed. In this overview, we will walk you through the correct sequence of procedures to adapt your present truck chassis with a Curry Supply water system. To begin installing your water system, mount the spray head control console in the cab of the truck. Mount the console to the passenger seat base or the most convenient location available that is accessible to the operator. 4 3/8-inch holes will need to be drilled to mount the control console. The next step will be to run 1/4-inch air lines from the spray head control console from each air switch to the rear of the chassis. Before you begin this step, it is important to mark the air lines according to each switch on the console. And if there is a water cannon being installed, the wiring harness to it will need to be run from the cab prior to all of the air lines. This will require cutting holes through the seat panel, rear panel, and exterior side of the cab. The holes will need to be 1 1/2 inch in diameter. Next, install rubber grommets in each hole. Fasten and secure the air lines at various points on the chassis. Allow plenty of excess airline at the rear of the chassis. Once the tank is installed on the chassis, the excess airline will be necessary to reach each airline run on the tank. If the tank is equipped with a water cannon, install the water cannon to the tank cannon pipe with a Victaulic clamp. Connect the cannon wiring harness and 1/4-inch airline to the spray valve control console in the operator's cab. Leave excess airline available to connect to the cannon control valve once the tank is installed on the chassis. Find a power source in the rear of the cab and install the supplied breaker or fuse holder. Connect the breaker or fuse holder to the push-pull switch located on the supplied console. A 14-2 wire will need to be run from the console in the cab to the cannon power box on the pipe on the front of the tank. Now, we will plumb the control console air supply line into the truck air tank. Make sure to drain the air pressure in the system prior to starting the plumbing. Locate the truck air system and plumb the control console air supply line into the truck air tank with 1/4-inch air line. The air system is usually located in the rear of the cab, behind the access door. Tee into an air line, or, if available, use an open port on the air tank. The line can then be run through 2 of the 3 previously drilled 1 1/2-inch holes to the control console. If the hydraulic system is equipped with an electric dump system, then some of the wiring will need to be changed. However, if it is a manual dump system, then a locking mechanism will need to be made to hold the manual dump lever in the on position. A 3/8-inch hydraulic hose will need to be run from the water pump motor case drain to the hydraulic tank on the chassis. The hose will be installed on the water tank prior to shipping. Drill a 1/2-inch hole into the top of the hydraulic tank and weld a 3/8-inch sleeve over the hole. This will be easier to do before the tank is installed on the chassis. Install the fitting into the sleeve for the hydraulic hose. Complete the connection of the hose after the tank is installed. Prior to the tank installation, the tail lights on the chassis will need to be removed. The backup alarm will also need to be relocated so that it doesn't interfere with the tank. There will need to be a plate or bracket made for the dump sensor so that it works properly. Standard practice is to make a plate that covers the holes previously used for the taillights and mount the backup alarm on it. The proximity sensor will need to be mounted so that it is a 1/4-inch or less away from a metallic surface. Using a plate to mount both the backup alarm and the proximity sensor is the easiest and most common technique. The location where the proximity sensor is mounted will allow it to have a consistently accurate reading crucial to its function. On some models, there will be a step on the exhaust manifold behind the cab that will need to be removed. The studs holding it in place will need to be cut off. Lift the water tank onto the truck chassis and install the rear pins. The pins will need to be secured with the provided safety straps. Determine what spacers will be needed to take up the excess play between the tank runners and the pin mounts on the chassis, and shim evenly to center the tank on the chassis. The necessary spacers will be provided with the installation kit. Connect the air lines from the truck to the tank air lines in accordance with the switch layout on the control console. This is done by using quick connect fittings to attach the truck air lines to the air lines on the tank. Connect the wiring from the new taillights with the wiring harness on the truck chassis by connecting the plugs. Connect the 3/8-inch hydraulic hose on the water pump motor to the hydraulic tank on the truck chassis. This will be fastened to the previously installed 3/8-inch sleeve. Raise the front of the tank so that the studs on the front end cap are visible. Make sure the tank is properly chocked for safety so it will not drop. Install the 14-2 power line, the cannon harness, and the air line on the front of the tank. Fasten them using rubber clamps. Connect them to the proper fitting or plug. Any extra 14-2 wire or air line may be trimmed to fit. The wiring harness may now be folded and tucked into the compartment behind the cab to keep it safe and out of the way. If this is not possible, fold the harness and tie it under the tank. Remove the chock and lower the tank back down into place. There should be some extra wire, air line, and harness under the front of the tank, which is fine in case the tank needs to be raised again. Shim the tank runners so that the tank is sitting level on the truck chassis. Shim should be placed between the tank runners and the rubber permaslat plates. The tank should not have any weight resting on the front pedestals. Then, shim the rockers so they just touch the rocker boxes on the front of the tank. Secure the front of the tank by installing the tie-down bars into the rockers on the chassis. Each tie-down bar gets tightened down with 2 7/8-inch bolts on each side. This should completely fasten the tank down to the chassis for permanent installation. If the truck is equipped with dump cylinders, install the dump cylinder pins and insert the safety bolt. Adjust the tank cylinder bracket to the desired location as needed. If equipped, the rock ejectors will need to be put into position underneath the fenders on the tank. They will need to be spaced appropriately within the bracket to ensure proper function. Use the provided shims to align the ejectors to the desired position. Then, make sure the pins are in place and install the hold-down strap to keep the pin from sliding out. Secure the bolts. Install the mud flaps on the tank fenders using 3/8-inch bolts, washers, and lock nuts with a backing plate on the side, not against the fender, to help pinch the rubber tight. On the left front mud flap, place a rubberized clamp on the 3rd and 4th bolt in from the outside of the fender. The clamps will need to be large enough to accommodate the return hose, the larger of the two. The clamps will be tightened to the front side of the fender. Connect the pressure hydraulic line on the tank fender to the raise port on the truck control valve. Fasten it with the hose bracket that held the previous hydraulic hoses for the dump cylinders. The dump cylinders are inactive when water pump is in operation. When removing the original dump cylinder lines, remember to cap off the previously used ports. Connect the return hydraulic line on the tank fender to the lower port on the truck control valve. The return line will need to run through the rubberized clamps on the front of the right fender and then down to the port. Then, fasten it with the hose bracket that held the previous hydraulic hoses for the dump cylinders. Install the tank drain valve under the back of the tank with a Victaulic clamp. The handle should be facing the back right corner in the up position so that it can be pulled down to dump. While under the back of the tank, place the pins for the tank safety locks in the proper sleeve under the main tank pins. They will also have a retaining pin to ensure they do not fall out during operation. Swing the hose reel mounting bracket from the transport position into the operating position on the rear of the tank. Connect the hose running from the hose reel to the existing port on the spray bar. The valve on the spray bar will need to be opened to pressurize the reel. Make sure that the hose nozzle is in the closed position before opening the pressure valve. To operate the water pump, move the dump cylinder control lever to the raised position. A latch will need to be installed to retain the control lever in the raised position to provide constant operation of the spray system. The exception would be if it were on an electric-operated hydraulic system. Mount the latch along the left-hand side of the driver's seat. It will mount to a bolt holding the seat, and the other hole will need to be manually drilled. The padding beneath the mount will need to be cut away prior to drilling the holes and fastening it to the floor. On an electric dump system, a stopping bracket will need to be made to keep the dump lever from going forward. When pushing forward on the lever, a sudden change in the pump's direction can occur, and this can damage the pump. The proper latch will be with the installation kit. Test the operation of all water system components prior to placing the unit into service. Check for leaks within the air system, water system, and hydraulic system. Check all mounting points to ensure that there are no problems. Make sure all electrical items are functioning properly. Immediately repair any leaks or any item that is malfunctioning. We hope this overview was helpful in installing your Curry Supply water system. If a problem persists, please locate the red tank identification tag and have the tank's model number readily available before calling our toll-free number 1-800-345-2829. For our parts department directly, contact 814-224-2535. Thank you again for choosing a Curry Supply water system.